Hello, this is Woodrow Wilcox. I'm here with Dr. Stephen E. Fraser, the very famous Dr. Stephen E. Fraser. Dr. Fraser, apparently, according to the internet things I've received, you are very famous because your letter to Senator Evan Bayh is all over the internet. Could you tell us how you got started with, first of all, reading the entire H.R. 3200 concerning health care reform, and then tell us how your letter got started and go from there?
Sure. I'm an anesthesiologist and I have a lot of call. In July, when this healthcare legislation was being formed in Congress, I had a lot of free time on my hands at night, so I downloaded H.R. 3200, which is the House version of the bill, to my computer, and I went through it line by line and pulled out sections that I thought were interesting or troubling, and wrote a letter to my senator, Senator Bayh, and sent it to my colleagues. And my intention was for my colleagues to use the letter as a basis for their own research and to encourage them to get involved with the issue as well. Some of them sent the letter to their friends by email, and then the letter went all over the internet.
So your intent, you were not trying to become a national leader for any cause. You just researched it on your own and wrote a letter to your senator and then sent a copy of that letter to your colleagues in your medical firm. And you did not intend for it to go out to the entire world, did you?
No, I did not. And I guess that's the nature of the internet today, that if you write something, it can go everywhere. I'm definitely not a member of the vast right-wing conspiracy. I've never written to one of my elected representatives in my life. I consider myself a good citizen. I vote, but I've never been active in the political process.
So this was your first letter to an elected public official to express your views, and now it's been spread all over the world through the internet.
That's correct. And I might say at the time, the Senate did not have a bill for me to read, so I did send a letter to Evan Bayh about the House bill. But at the time that I wrote the letter, there were no Senate bills to compare to.
So basically, you read the entire 1,000 plus page bill, made notations, and then told your senator what you didn't like about it.
Correct.
Dr. Fraser, there are a lot of versions of your letter out on the internet, and I tracked you down to make sure that I met the actual Dr. Stephen E. Fraser and that I got a copy of his letter to United States Senator Evan Bayh, and I hope you're pleased that I posted your letter at the website medicareproblems.net without altering it at all.
It's nice to have an original copy placed for public viewing, yes.
Dr. Fraser, I'd like you to talk about the specific portions of H.R. 3200 that are of interest to senior citizens, what their concerns are, and I'd like you to speak to those.
Okay, I think that the majority of H.R. 3200 applies to the non-Medicare population, but there are sections in the bill that do apply. One is the Advanced Care Planning Consultation section, which is section 1233 of the bill. I think the intent, if one can say that from reading a big bill like this, the intent of the writers was to make sure that an end-of-life discussion did take place with a senior citizen so that plans would be in place to respect their wishes at the end of life and that the government pay for this consultation. I think that was their intent. However, reading in the specific lines, the government mandates that a discussion like this take place every 5 years, which I find strange. Most people don't alter their end-of-life durable power of attorneys every 5 years. And then another section states that as the patient's health deteriorates, these consultations may occur more frequently, which again is a little troubling to me. I don't know why that would be necessary. Also, I think that an end-of-life planning consultation should take place with the physician, the patient, and their family involved. I don't think the government has a role in being in this discussion.
And you found the specific language of the bill indicates that the government can start to have a role in this decision. Is that right?
My interpretation of these lines, and I encourage people to read this section for themselves, is that the government inserts itself directly into this process. As a matter of fact, one section describes that not only physicians, but other providers, perhaps a nurse, perhaps somebody else, can institute the plan. So again, I think the intent was to make sure that this kind of service or consultation is available to all seniors. But again, inserting the government into this end-of-life process with the pressures that we all know are on Medicare right now for limited resources is potentially problematic.
When you say instituted the plan, that someone other than a doctor can start to institute the plan, you're talking about someone other than a doctor initiating the process to bring a patient's life to an end. Is that correct?
No, I would say that this is not a euthanasia section. I don't think that this bill means that if somebody other than a doctor can do something to end somebody's life. But what it does say is that the consultation and the plans themselves can be written up without a doctor's input and implemented without a doctor's input, which, again, I think should not be the role of the government.
Okay. Is there anything that you've learned since you read H.R. 3200 that would change your mind, or something that you'd like to add to what you actually wrote in your letter?
Yes, I think this process, healthcare reform process, is evolving daily. It's hard to keep up on everything. One of the things that bothers me is that one of President Obama's main advisors, Ezekiel Emanuel, who's the brother of the Chief of Staff Rahm Emanuel, has written a letter or an article in Lancet this past December, I believe, about rationing of healthcare.
Lancet, isn't that the European medical professional magazine?
Yes, it's kind of like the New England Journal of Medicine, but it's the British version. Dr. Ezekiel Emanuel is a very smart individual. He's a medical ethicist. He's written extensively on healthcare in the past, but this article is troubling to me in that he describes a system to ration care in which the young, less than age 6, and the elderly over age 52 should be given less resources by the government for care. I encourage people to go to the Lancet website and to type in his name and to search and read this article for themselves. There was also an article about him in the New York Post in July, and the title of the article was called Deadly Doctors. And I encourage senior citizens to research on the New York Post website this article and to read about Dr. Ezekiel Emanuel for themselves. He will be the person, one of the main individuals in the Obama administration, which will help, once the bill is passed, the healthcare bill is passed, will write the details of the bill. And he has had such a strong written stance on care for the elderly in the past, or lack of care for the elderly in the past, that I would be worried as a senior citizen that this individual will be involved in the process at all.
So in other words, if once there is a health care reform bill passed, if it passes, then you're saying Dr. Ezekiel Emanuel, brother of the Chief of Staff of the President, will be writing the regulations, or be one of the chief writers of the regulations on how to implement that. And you're saying he has a predisposition to not wanting to give lots of treatment to people who are past 65 or so?
I think that that's one conclusion one can draw. He's not going to be the only person involved, but he's very high up in the process. And I personally find his philosophy to be troubling. Again, I encourage people to research it for themselves and to draw their own conclusions.
Thank you very much, Dr. Stephen E. Fraser. Thank you for being a concerned citizen, reading through the entire bill, and writing your U.S. Senator. And thank you for sharing your thoughts on H.R. 3200